The Chosen Season 5, The Last Supper, has concluded in theaters with the last 3 episodes, and the table is finally set for the conclusion of the Passion of Jesus that takes place in Season 6. Today, I will give you my thoughts about these last 3 episodes and what I think Season 6 will consist of. But before I get to that, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the amazing content that we have coming your way. And let me know what you have thought of this season of The Chosen down in the comments. Tell me about the things you liked and those that you didn't like. I'd love to have that conversation with you. Now, let's talk some Chosen. So my fears going into these episodes was confirmed, and there was not enough material to go through these 3 episodes. That being said, they did handle it in a good way and didn't just fill this extra space with side plots and such. We'll get to how they did that in a little bit. We also learned about who that mysterious character was in episode 1 and 2 that was dubbed the Watcher. And I was both right and wrong on who this character was. We find out that this character was Matthias. I think this will probably turn out to be the Matthias that is talked about in Acts chapter 2 as the replacement for Judas. Now, I did say I was right and wrong, and since this clearly shows that I was wrong, then how was I right? We did meet a young character in these 3 episodes named Mark, who lived in the house where Jesus and his disciples had the Last Supper meal. The way his story plays out over these 3 episodes, it clearly alludes to this being that person who is referred to in Mark chapter 14 verses 51 and 52, which leads us now to the episodes. Now, episode 6 saw the disciples getting ready for the Passover meal. These are the events from Mark chapter 14 verses 12 through 6. We also see that Judas has gone to Caiaphas to negotiate his price to betray Jesus. There is a story arc that is started at the end of episode 5 that concerns the return of a prominent character that we saw in the first season. For me, this story arc doesn't need to be there. It isn't bad, but it's just unnecessary. The reason I think they included this is for season 6, to be able to add more dialogue and tension with characters that we are familiar with, instead of it being with characters that are just random and we don't know. Episode 7 is essentially just a filler episode. This is what I was referring to earlier when I said they had to fill in time, but did it in a good way. With tensions high in the city, each disciple, or a pair of them, took the long and winding different routes to the location of the Last Supper meal, to avoid anyone trying to follow them. It takes each disciple, or pair, and shows them walking through the city. They see an event that reminds them of their life before Jesus had entered it, and they then did a flashback scene showing their past life. Each story was well done and added more depth to each disciple. Despite these being well done, they didn't really serve the overall story in any way. Outside of a couple scenes that they could have moved to the previous or next episode, this one could not have been there and it wouldn't have been missed at all. That being said, I thought it was a good episode though, so don't get me wrong. It really was a good episode, it just wasn't necessary to the overall story. The last episode was extremely intense. After the Last Supper meal, Jesus and his disciples head to the Garden of Gethsemane. Peter, James, and John follow Jesus deeper into the garden and are asked to stand watch as Jesus goes off to pray and agonize. This was essentially the entire episode. As Jesus prayed, and without giving any spoilers, they called back to some different stories and events in the Old Testament that parallel Jesus, along with some prophecy as well. I will say, before you see this episode, go and watch the short The Shepherd or The Messenger from the Chosen series if you haven't already, or you may be a little confused by one part. I say that because I watched these with my mom and dad, and they had not seen either of those, and were confused by this one scene, and I had to explain it to them. The season ends with Judas leading the temple guard to the garden where he betrays Jesus with a kiss. End of season 5. This was a fantastic season. The things I was worried about were resolved well, and I think this season did exactly what it needed to, which was to bring the emotions and intensity to a fever pitch as we move into the crucifixion and resurrection next season. This season got back to its roots from seasons 1 through 3, which I think it strayed a bit too far from in season 4. I would have to go back and watch the whole series again, but this may be the best season so far. Now, with season 5 done and over with, where do I think season 6 is heading? I think season 6 will pick up exactly where season 5 left off in the garden. We will see Jesus stand trial before the Sanhedrin, his trial before Herod, going before Pilate, and his beating and crucifixion. Where I think this season will be different from other tellings of the Passion story is that I think there will be a significant amount of time spent with the disciples and how they are handling things after Jesus is dead and buried, but before his resurrection. I think the season will end with the stone being rolled away, as they like to end the season on big emotional cliffhangers. I will be interested to see how graphic they take things in Jesus' beating and lashing. I don't think they're going to go full Passion of the Christ intensity, but I do think they need to match the emotion and intensity they have built up so far. Overall, this was a great season, and I'm excited for season 6 next year. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to give it a like and let us know down in the comments what you thought of these episodes and this season as a whole. If you're looking for something new to watch that is top quality Christian entertainment, then check out this movie review of the movie The King of Kings right here. May God bless each and every one of you, and I will see you all in the next video.